Hi, it's Father Tom from Our Lady of the Assumption Church in Latham with our second installment of our Discover Grace Lenten study series. So we began last week with our Lord's call for us to go to the spiritual desert, to detach from the distractions and the busyness, the things that keep our hearts attached to what's immediately in front of us and not able to hear Him and how He's calling us. Now in this second week, we take the next step. Our response to His call to encounter Him, especially in prayer. We're going to hear St. Matthew's account of the Transfiguration. So our Lord takes Peter, James, and John up the mountain. That's a biblical place of encounter with the Lord. They see Jesus in a radiant light. He's with Elijah and Moses. And they hear that voice of the Father, "This is my beloved Son." And then the scene changes, and they're left now again alone with Jesus. The story is meant to remind us that when we enter into prayer, just as our Lord took Peter, James, and John up the mountain, we're responding to His invitation. Sometimes it feels like when we start to pray, we're barging in on God or trying to get His attention. And we're really reminded that, no, the Lord invites us. He wants us to go up the mountain to encounter Him. And what happens when we do that? Well, just as Peter, James, and John encounter the Lord, so we too can encounter the Lord. Sometimes it's a sense of peace that we can experience in prayer. Sometimes it's a sense of gratitude, a sense of joy when we bring what's on our heart to the Lord. Sometimes it's a decision we need to make or some desire for direction and how we're being called, and we get that sense of direction. Many different ways that we experience it, but different ways that we experience God's grace, His presence, when we encounter Him in prayer. So as we continue into our second week of Lent, good time to reflect on what are ways that I can enter into prayer, set aside a little bit more time for prayer, but then also to reflect on how have I already encountered God's grace in prayer? When we respond to that our Lord's invitation to encounter Him in prayer, He shares His grace with us. He shares His presence with us. And that's how we encounter Him when we respond to that call. God bless.